So welcome to TRF Tuesdays.
So, welcome. We're so glad to know that you are all here with us. Um,
So today is a very important day in U.S. history. I imagine most of us see it as an opportunity to go back to America being a democracy that is not run by exploitative people. And I think a lot of us have a lot of feelings of worry and anxiety and terror, even. And so today is not a day that we want to get into our heads and intellectualize and speculate. Today is really a day that we want to sort of get into our bodies and maybe also very much collectively get a sense of being there together and getting a sense of collective commitment to keep ourselves calm and mindful and focused and compassionate. So Licia will be running most of this today.
yeah, if you've never been to a TRF Tuesday before, we started doing once a week meditations and embodied practices just to help people to ground themselves in the present moment as we were facing great uncertainty and not knowing what was happening. And we felt that this was an appropriate day to just reaffirm that that's our intention here, is to find a way to ground in the present moment, ground in our bodies. If we're feeling highly aroused, to be able to calm that down, or if we're feeling so overwhelmed that things are shut down, to engage our bodies in a way that helps us to feel more awake and present in the moment. Um, with calmness and kindness and compassion and curiosity, to welcome what it is we are actually experiencing, to be more curious about what we're feeling than afraid of what we're feeling. um, yeah, so I was playing my singing bowl, and I just want to play it again for just a moment, just as an element of ritual, to just bring sound and vibration into this session that we're doing. And I hope the sound isn't too loud for some of you. Some of you might feel like humming along with this sound. And I just offer it as a pure tone for you to get in touch with your own vibrations and feelings inside. Um, Everything that we're going to be doing in this session, I'm going to use the language of invitation. And the invitation is for you to notice what you're being invited to try, to notice how that resonates inside you, whether it sounds like something that feels safe for you to try or not. But notice what your response is to it. And for some of you, you'll just jump in and go right ahead. And for others of you, you will dip your toe in and come back. And because of the nature of this online experience, you are responsible for how much you do or how little you do. But we welcome you to be here for all of it. And with that, um, I'm just going to say that some people have been feeling really aroused, really nervous and anxious about what's going to happen. And we have a lot around us that's unknown, similar to when the pandemic first started. And then there are other people who are so overwhelmed by what's happening that they don't want to feel anything at all. And for both of those, there's this incongruity between what's happening inside our nervous system and how our bodies are playing internally, and how we are presenting or relating and engaging with the world or not engaging with the world on the outside. Um, so I thought that I would start a first exercise of just, I'm going to sit on the edge of my chair and push the camera back a little bit. I invite you to either stand up and notice what it feels like to have your feet on the floor, or come to the edge of your seat and feel what it's like to have your feet on the floor. And I'll even show you that my bare feet are on the floor, and I'm sitting on the edge of my chair. Yeah. And I'm going to invite you to notice, what does it feel like right now to be sitting where you are right now in the space that you're in? And after all these months of shutting down and opening up and beginning to shut down again, I wonder, what is the space that you have been in? And what is the space that you're in now? So I invite you to notice as you sit on the edge of your chair where you are physically, as you feel your feet on the ground and your bum in your seat. I'm going to invite your eyes to wander just a little bit through the space that you're in. And I invite you to take in the details of the space that you are in. How large or small is it? What is the space that's containing you and containing your energy in this moment right now? And how does that relate to what's going on inside your nervous system and your body? How still do you feel, or how much do you feel like you need to move, or things moving inside you? Are you feeling jumpy? So I'm going to invite you to externalize what you're feeling internally. It doesn't have to be huge and explosive, but if you're feeling this kind of energy, I invite you to move in this way and activate your hands, activate your shoulders maybe. You might want to tap your feet or your toes or your heels and just shake things out a little bit. So all that energy that you've been holding still, that has maybe been building up inside, has a chance to just move through you without being held in tension. And I invite you to wiggle your head, shake your hair, your ankles, maybe stick your foot out and shake it. Yeah, and just move a little. And again, if you feel like standing and doing it, that's fine too. And just after you've exerted yourself a little bit and got that engine going, I invite you to notice, what do you sense in your body now? What do you feel in your energy? I can feel my heart rate is elevated, but as if I've been moving more instead of my heart being elevated from tension and anxiety about something on the outside. So I'm inviting you to just notice what it feels like. What does your breath feel like? What does your heartbeat feel like? What do your shoulders and arms and belly and toes and neck feel like, and legs feel like after shaking things out a little bit? What does your breath want to do? So I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath in and out, maybe through your nose, maybe out through your mouth. There's a breath that I like to do, that I like to share, that has to do with creating an internal pressure that holds you and connects you to your core a little bit more. And it's an out breath with a little bit of resistance. So I call it an F breath, where you're making a F sound as if you're going to blow out a candle that's a long ways across the room. So I invite you to breathe through your nose if you're able. Generally speaking, we're able to hold our breath for longer when we make a sound, when we're exhaling. So an inhale again. And I invite you to notice what it feels like internally and externally, having taken that breath with a little bit of resistance. There's a way that we hold our breath just a little bit. We embrace ourselves just a little bit with that little bit of resistance. And I find that I can hear my system calming down just from that one breath. So I'm going to invite you to notice, having done that shaking, done that moving around, done that little bit of breathing, I'm going to invite you to notice, what does the space that you're in feel like right now? Has anything shifted? How does it feel to be here? And I'm going to invite you, as you scan the space you're in, to notice if there's anything in the space that catches your eye in a familiar way or a comfortable way, or is there something that you may have been overlooking that you actually like in the space that you're in? And I also invite you to notice the things that might be in the room that you've been overlooking because there's been so much going on and we don't have time to deal with everything that's around us. So I invite you with kindness and compassion to see what's around you that's familiar, that's orderly or comforting, familiar and disorderly that you've been avoiding, but just to know what it feels like to be in this space right now with as much kindness for you in this space as you can. And from this place of knowing where we are, I invite you to, if you haven't looked around behind you, look around behind you. And as you twist, I'm going to invite you to feel what your body feels like when you're doing a twist. What does your neck feel like? What does your torso feel like? What does your spine feel like? What does your head feel like? A lot of us have been sitting looking at screens. What does it feel like to see what's around you? This is called orienting. Sometimes our focus when we're intent and concerned about things can become very narrow. And this is a way of opening up our awareness in a wider context where we are now in space that can help us feel more grounded here. So now I'm still sitting on the edge of my seat and I'm pushing my legs and feet into the floor. So I'm going to invite you to try the same thing. It's almost as if you're going to push yourself back in the seat. What happens when you engage your legs? And you might find that your weight begins to shift. You can rock, you can feel your spine moving in response to your feet pushing and releasing. And I invite you to just notice, what is this simple thing of pushing your feet into the floor and then releasing like? And what's it like to have this little bit of movement? I'm exaggerating my movement and maybe you don't need to, or maybe it's something that's really soothing or comforting or pleasurable and you might want to rock a little bit more. And just notice what moving is like in this space. I invite you to keep your awareness as you do this as broad as you can. It's not even important that you look at Bessel or me. You can just hear my invitations and do what you feel like doing. So I feel moved to move my arms as I do this. And so I'm just going to invite you to move as you feel like moving. Yeah. And I'm going to invite you to notice what you feel as you move your arms, push your feet, rock or not. Maybe you circle your ankles and toes and I can't see, but you can see. So I'm going to invite you to just animate gently and slowly what you feel in the space. And maybe allow your hands and arms and eyes and face to feel the space around you. We have a lot of sensing ability in our hands, in our skin. And we have this peripheral awareness of our bodies in space and what's around us. So I'm going to invite you to just notice and play with your hands and arms moving in space, of noticing what you feel. So you try and sweep one hand over the other and notice what the limits of your senses are, of your peripheral space around your body. This is something that we don't usually pay attention to. It's usually on a subconscious level, but we have comfort, our habits of comfort, our habits of spatial distance, social distance that we have, that a lot of those things have been recalibrated in this time. But with yourself right now, I invite you to notice, what are you able to sense or feel or imagine And I invite you to notice what you sense or feel or imagine if you see me doing this. What do you sense or feel or imagine in your own body? And I use imagine as a way to give you permission to notice what you might otherwise discard as, oh, that can't really be real, because it might be more real than your intellect feels comfortable allowing to be real. So we can let it be imaginary, but it can still be something that you notice or experience, right? And so I invite you to notice what your breath feels like now after having done that. What does your body feel like? Can you get a read on your nervous system now from having moved vigorously, from having given your out breath the resistance of an F sound, from having oriented your eyes in space, and from playing with how your body wants to move in the space that you're in, to noticing our peripheral space, our ability to sense what's around our bodies. From here, I just invite you to notice, has something shifted? Does it feel a little quieter or a little more awake? Where are you right now? And from here, it might be that we've established ourselves in the present moment in time enough to take a little more inward focus. So I'm going to invite you to soften your gaze, or if you're comfortable closing your eyes, you might want to try closing your eyes. But I'm going to invite you to again bring the focus of your attention to the soles of your feet and how your feet are making contact with the floor. I invite you to notice what parts of your feet make contact with the floor. Your arches, the pads of your toes, your heels, the sides of your feet. What's the texture of the floor under your feet? Is it smooth and wooden? Is it cool? Is it carpeted? Is it rough? Is it warm? How much weight are your feet bearing? How much weight do you feel going through your legs? How much weight do you feel in your seat, in your chair? Is there a balance there between your feet and the seat of your spine? Where do you feel most of your weight? I invite you to notice whether you have more weight on your left side or your right side. And I invite you to notice where the ease is and where the active engagement is in keeping you in the position that you're in. This can be a very subtle thing. We're listening to things that we normally don't pay attention to. So I invite you to notice where there's tension in your legs that's supporting you, where there's relaxation and ease because there's balance. I invite you to notice your breath again and your heartbeat as you pay attention to these parts of your body. And I'm going to invite you to pay attention to your spine. So our spines sit in the back of our body. I know for a lot of us, we imagine a spine as being in the core and in the center, but actually our spines are in the back of our body, and the volume of our body is in front of our spine. So I invite you to take in that notion that our spine is really in the back of our body. And of course, it has a volume that does go forward from the outer surface of our spine, but the full volume of our body is in front of our spine. So I invite you to notice your tailbone and your sacrum and the crook of your waist and the rise of your spine up to the back of your rib cage, through the center of your back, on either side of your scapula, your wing bones behind you, continuing through the rib cage to the base of your neck where your shoulders are, through the back of your neck to the base of your skull. And I invite you to notice the volume of your body in front of your spine. From the base of your spine, you might notice your lower abdomen, your belly, the movement of your diaphragm as you breathe in and out. I invite you to notice your solar plexus in the front of your body, the base of your ribs in the front of your chest. I invite you to notice or imagine or sense the volume of your ribs in front of your spine as you breathe in and out. I invite you to notice what moves and what doesn't move. What you imagine or sense you'd like to have move that's not moving, or what surprises you that it's moving that you didn't think would move. I invite you to notice the volume of your breath as you inhale and exhale. And I invite you to notice what your body does or wants to do in response to you noticing your breath in the front of your spine, contained by your ribs and your chest. What happens? I invite you to sense or notice or imagine the sounds of your breath coming in through your nose, through your sinuses, through the back of your throat. And I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine your internal volume expanding as you inhale and getting smaller again as you exhale. If you haven't already, I invite you to bring a hand to your chest and maybe a hand to your belly. And I invite you to notice the sensations of movement of your breath. You may sense or notice or imagine your hands coming slightly apart with an inhale, moving outward as you inhale, and contracting and coming closer together as you exhale. I invite you to notice the pressure of your hands. What kind of contact feels comfortable for you? You may be making contact with the cloth of your shirt or top. You may notice the temperature of your hands on your chest and your belly. You may notice thoughts, feelings around making contact with your belly, contact with your chest and your heart. And I invite you to hold as much kindness and compassion for yourself as you make this contact. So you may notice sensations in your hands, familiar, unfamiliar, long forgotten, newly encountered. Sensations in your chest and your belly. I invite you to notice, sense, or imagine the pulse or beat of your heart in the hand that's on your chest. If your nervous system has calmed down a lot, it might be something that you really just have to gently imagine. And if it's uncomfortable, you don't need to go there. But I invite you to notice what comes up for you in holding in this way. I invite you to be as gentle as you can with the person that you're holding. I invite you to make your presence known with as much clarity as you can to the person that you are holding. And I invite you to give as much kindness and compassion in this moment as you can to the person you are holding. And I invite you to notice if the quality of contact or touch has changed or shifted as you allow yourself to become a little more aware of it. And I invite you to notice how you're responding, how your breath responds, your sense of your heartbeat or pulse, your sense of stillness or activation. And with the next few breaths, I invite you to notice what it feels like to be held by this person who is holding you. I invite you to notice what you are able to receive from this person who is holding you. I invite you to notice what it's like to be held by this person who is doing their best in this moment now to offer you gentle, kind compassion. I invite you to notice how your breath shifts and changes, how your sense of the space around you shifts and changes. And with the next breath in and out, I invite you to allow your hands to slowly float away from your body. Just levitate a little bit away. And as your hands move away from your body, I invite you to notice the sensations that remain in your body and the sensations that remain in your hands. And if there's anything that you would like to do with the sensations in your hands or the sensations in your body, I invite you to just very gently move your hands through space. Find where you'd like to make contact with yourself next, or notice the sensations of the air between your hands, where your energy is. There can be a lot of sensation of magnetism between your hands after doing something like this, and it's a nice thing to just gather and bring to wherever you feel like you need it. It can be a cleansing, it can be a nourishing. Sometimes we make a gesture of scooping energy from the ground and bringing it up, bringing it to our hearts. Sometimes we make a gesture of reaching up to the ceiling, to the heavens, and gathering energy to come back into our center. So there are symbolically two different ways of playing with the energy: scooping up from the ground, the energy of the earth, scooping up from the heaven, and bringing it down into you. And it can go back into your heart or into your belly or just into your hands. So I invite you to notice from here, where you are right now, what it feels like to be in this room now. And I hope that this is a connection with yourself. And I hope that this is a connection with us too. And that you'll join us again, because we have something every Tuesday to do. So this is our moment of calm on Election Day. Thank you so much for being with us.